When black plays the Slav, the main move for white is knight f3. And when I was a beginner, that really confused me. In the queen's gambit, for example, we usually develop the queen's knight first, to put immediate pressure on d5. So I didn't really understand why knight f3 was recommended here. It took me a while to figure out the reason behind it. One thing I realized is that this knight can come under attack and sometimes has to retreat. Let me show you how that happens. First, black captures on c4, and if you try to attack it directly with e4, black defends by creating a solid pawn chain. But white can use a clever pawn break to completely disrupt black's structure. Even after a6, the b5 pawn still falls. However, black can escape with b4, buying some time to secure the c4 pawn later. Okay, so the knight retreats to a2, and even though it's now decentralized, both black pawns are hanging. But black is gaining some positional assets in return for giving the pawn back. Before committing to anything significant, black plays knight f6, targeting the e4 pawn. If white counterattacks with e5, well, the knight turns into a monster on d5. And if white tries f3 instead, well, there is a beautiful thematic response that really captures the spirit of the Slav defense. e5. Now, white king loses the right to castle and is exposed on the open file, which is great news for one of black rooks. Then the e5 pawn gets attacked, and white never really seems to get a chance to win any of those queenside pawns. Now let's see what happens if we develop the other knight, and black takes on c4 the same way as before. Well, we play e3. They defend, and once again a4. The key idea is that after bishop b7, we play b3. And, well, white wins one of the pawns, no matter how black responds. I was curious to see how this plays out among players rated below 2000, and it usually goes like this. C takes b3, a takes b5, c takes b5, bishop takes b5 check, and after bishop c6, queen takes b3, bishop takes b5, we get this in-between move knight e5, provoking e6, and then queen takes b5. Now this pin is so uncomfortable for black that Stockfish evaluates the position as winning for white. The issue for black is they cannot finish their kingside development without compromising something. For instance, if the bishop goes to e7, white can always play knight c6, followed by knight takes e7. And if black tries bishop d6, white has knight dc4, so after bishop takes e5, d takes e5, white can play knight e6 with a check. Overall, the knight on c3 actually benefits black when they play b5, enabling them to gain a crucial tempo with b4, which helps them to maintain balance in the game. The second reason not to play knight c3 is even more instructive and can apply to several other openings as well. For example, in the Queen's Gambit Accepted, where the move knight f3 is preferred while knight c3 is considered somewhat suboptimal. Let's pause and ask, what's potentially wrong with this seemingly ordinary move, knight c3? Maybe the question should be rephrased and we should ask instead, why do we need knight f3, while the move knight c3 doesn't help? You'll notice that knight c3 doesn't control e5, allowing black to sacrifice their e-pawn, undermining white's right to castle, while gaining greater activity and development. This e5 motif in the Queen's Gambit Accepted causes similar damage to what we just witnessed in the Slav, when black sacrificed the same way, However, the same idea can be applied even earlier than what we saw before. Right after knight c3, black can respond with e5. And after d takes e, d4. Knight e4, queen a5 check, followed by queen takes e5, and black doesn't seem worse at all. But let's say we continue with the same move, d takes c, again. And this time white tries to prevent b5 by playing a4. It is the most typical way to play the Slav with white. Next is e3 or e4, regaining the pawn, with a slight advantage thanks to the better center. Unless there is the same old e5. This move brings chaos for white, who's just trying to stabilize the position. White usually grabs the pawn, but then has to deal with the two tricky options. If the king takes, bishop e6, then knight a6, and castling long. Black can throw in knight c5 and then either knight b3 or knight d3. The drawback of knight takes d1 is that white's pieces become pretty useless right from the start. I like the idea of knight d7, then knight c5, followed by knight b3. Since the rook is off the a file, black can start pushing their pawn majority on the queen side with a6, getting ready for b5. There's no need to stress over the c4 pawn anymore. Overall, it just feels better to have the black pieces in all these variations. Hope you find this useful. Let me know in the comments.